At UFC 199 last June, Cruz and Faber finally settled the beef. By this point, the tapestry of their rivalry was so rich that the pre-fight press conference devolved into the ultimate shit-slinging contest, where both men had unlimited ammunition. The exchanges summarized their whole relationship, alternating between brilliant cerebral analysis and hilarious juvenile insults. 1 minute, Dominic offered a characteristically profound soundbite stating that Uriah's failure to ever evolve and fix his weaknesses was a consequence of his inability to ever admit he had any weaknesses, a delusional excuse maker. That's some deep, insightful analysis from Dr. Cruz, but 10 minutes later, he was accusing Faber's eyes of being too close together. Hilarious shit. Faber went blow for blow. He characterized Cruz as an unintimidating point fighter whose career had been a series of underwhelming razor-close decisions. A coin toss every single time. And that was a clever way to diminish and twist Cruz's incredible record. But he later insulted the manner in which Cruz held the belt. He perved out on Fox Sports 1 the other day. He keeps talking about how he's been touching the belt, like some sort of pervert. Pick up the belt like a man. Don't be touching the belt, you little weirdo. Just a brilliant press conference and a superbly fitting final installment to a glorious decade of bickering and animosity. Unfortunately, the fight was not quite as competitive. The trilogy ended as many of these trilogies do, with the younger fighter emphatically outclassing his aging rival. Early in the second, Cruz made Faber eat many of his words by dropping Uriah with a huge shot, which saw Faber's tenacity quickly turn to tentativeness, and Cruz basically dominated the rest of the fight. The rivalry ended, and it was not a razor-close coin toss. It was an emphatic masterclass from Cruz, who had not only won the fight, he had finally demonstrated clear superiority over Faber and won an epic, decade-long rivalry in the process. But Dominic must have felt like he was playing fucking whack-a-mole with Team Alpha Male, because on the heels of one rivalry ending, began another. Backstage at that very event, Cody Garbrandt and Dominic had a momentary stare-down. A couple words were exchanged, and by Cody's account, both men made some very mean faces. Dominic later commented, "He's got a whole lot of talk, a whole lot of hype, because of the Uriah Faber hype behind him. He's got to latch on to the coattails of his daddy, Uriah Faber, and I beat him up, so now I guess that makes me his daddy." Cody interpreted those comments as a ruthless personal attack. He wants to bring up daddy issues, this and that. I definitely lost a lot of respect for him, for the choice of words that he said. He can say anything about me, but bringing in about coming from a broken family, man, he should definitely be scared, and he should be thankful that there's going to be a referee in there, because I'm going to be raining down vicious strikes over his limp body. Strong words from Cody, but I'm not sure if Dominic really was taking a shot at Cody's background. I mean, Cruz had previously referred to TJ Dillashaw as Faber's grandson, so it wasn't an unusual insult from Dominic. But as soon as he realized he had touched a nerve, he absolutely pounced on it in the way only Dominic Cruz can. It's only personal if you haven't dealt with it in your own mind. The only difference between me and Cody is I've dealt with my demons, and he's still facing them. When he's in there in the octagon with me, he's got another person to face on top of the demons he's still already facing in his own personal life. I'm making him battle himself, his own intuition of himself, his own feelings of himself, his feelings about his past, because he refuses to deal with that on his own. He runs from it, and the more he runs from it, the more I'm gonna make him pay. And the more strength he thinks he has in life, I'm gonna take those strengths away and make him deal with his own weaknesses. One of the weaknesses of Cody is his emotions. So when I say stuff like that, it attacks his emotions, because he can't control his emotions. He's an emotional wreck. I just let him know that. That's really just an amazing comment from Cruz. As I said, I'm not even convinced Dominic's initial comment was aimed at Cody's background. But as soon as he sensed a weakness, he pounced on it by emerging with a deep psychological breakdown of his opponent's reaction, which framed Cody as an angry hothead running from his emotions and past issues. Cruz really is a genius trash talker, because this framing of Cody's temperament as a sign of a mentally unstable emotional wreck meant that every time Cruz pushed his buttons and Cody lost his temper, the whole world were repeatedly reminded of that unflattering verbal portrait Cruz had painted. In a kind of weird paradox, the more intimidating Cody behaved, the weaker he looked. The most memorable moment in the build-up was in a Fox interview, where Cruz pushed Cody's buttons until Cody eventually ripped his microphone off and left the interview to go looking for Cruz. He had heard enough talk and wanted to beat his ass right there. The man conducting that interview was Robin Black. The truth is, you have control over your reactions, but he's reacting to Dominic Cruz in a minute. And if you react to him like that and it makes you hyper-aggressive and you can't wait to get over there, the second you charge over there, he's gonna double-leg you and end up on top right off the top. And he is absolutely in this kid's head. I feel for Cody Garbrandt because he's showing up at a mental gunfight with a pointed stick. And that's exactly how it looked. There was no way Garbrandt could compete in the verbal battle, and when he tried to use intimidation, Cruz had already framed this as the ultimate sign of emotional instability and mental weakness. It was a psychological checkmate from a trash-talking grandmaster. The build-up was the equivalent of Bobby Fischer versus one of those hotheads who flip the table over or fuck the chessboard off the wall as soon as they start losing. Robin perfectly summarized how I think most people regarded Cody's temperament and its likely implications on a fight. And personally, I didn't even think Cody deserved the shot over TJ Dillashaw. Yes, he was an undefeated knockout artist with 3 consecutive first-round KOs, but with only 10 fights, no real elite experience, and a questionable temperament, he looked like an unlikely candidate to crack one of the sport's most enduring riddles. Too green, far too emotional, and about to get taken to fucking school. Cruz may have convinced most of us that Cody was an emotional wreck, but he failed to convince the one man who mattered. Cody's confidence had not been fucked with, and his composure was evident as soon as the fight began. There was no headhunting or over-aggression. He took the center of the octagon, forced Cruz to come to him, dodging shots while calmly picking his own. The first 2 rounds were close, but Cody's boxing and footwork were already causing Cruz problems. Early in the third, Cruz got wobbled by a wicked right hand. Cody's confidence exploded and the showboating began. Running on the spot, doing the robot push-ups. I'm surprised he didn't take a few selfies, pull a fucking guitar out of his shorts, and file his tax returns. Because in the biggest fight of his life, Cody was now loving every fucking minute. In round 4, the wheels really came off for Cruz. Garbrandt molly-whopped the fuck out of his ass, flooring him on 2 separate occasions. Garbrandt's boxing was just outstanding, and his footwork and head movement were starting to frustrate the fuck out of Cruz, giving him a headache. With a decisive 3rd round and 2 clear knockdowns in the 4th, Cruz knew he needed a finish in the 5th. And to his credit, he fought tooth and fucking nail, looking for an opening to close his show. But Cody showed the composure of a champion and a surprising ability to compartmentalize his emotions when it mattered most. We didn't see a fiery, hot-headed, emotional wreck at UFC 207. Instead, we saw a brilliant, measured performance dominate the greatest bantamweight of all time and the first major chapter in an emerging MMA legacy. The enigmatic fist-fighting riddle had been solved, and almost poetically, it was a team alpha male fighter who had finally snatched his crown. We all know how this sport works. One generation of fighters slowly cannibalizes the former, before eventually succumbing to an even younger generation. And almost every legendary career tells some version of that story. There's nothing profound about that idea, but it is rare to see the whole story come full circle so perfectly and poetically within the context of a single rivalry, as it has with Dominic Cruz versus Team Alpha Male. The rivalry began with Dominic Cruz coming up, showing no respect, scrawling his name across Faber's face, trying to snatch his belt. And now 10 years later, Faber's protege has come up, showing no respect, channeling all the pent-up fire and fury of youth into loosening Dominic's grip around a belt, etching his own name in the history books. This rivalry may not be over, but it has come full circle on Dominic Cruz. And that full circle has left one of the greatest problem solvers ever facing some of the highest level problems in the fucking sport. And so the best of this rivalry may very well be yet to come.